of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host and most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on, it's gonna be fun. Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host and most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on, it's gonna be fun.
Even a pandemic could deflate this holiday tradition. Those humongous balloons pumped up with helium will rise again for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. This year they'll be pulled by utility vehicles. Instead of the 100 or so people each balloon is typically tethered to, those human handlers will now eagerly wait for next year.
Probably I'll be there underneath that balloon, whatever balloon they give me.
In all, the big balloon count is dropping from 16 last year to 12 this year, while the number of floats sinks from 26 to 18. And the parade workforce, that's been cut by 88%. Put simply, this year's blueprint, fewer footprints for more safety.
Normally we see a lot of crowds, we have a lot of clowns, we have a lot of balloon handlers. We're just not going to have as many people this year.
The NYPD has cut back on parade staffing by about 80% and does not expect many spectators to show up. Those who do will be reminded to practice social distancing.
And we're not asking people to show up, and of course there will be plenty of measures to make sure there are no crowds.
Rehearsals offered a glimpse of what to expect. Performance by Jimmy Fallon and The Roots, marching bands from the New York area, and yes, the Rockettes. Unable to dance at Radio City Music Hall, they'll don Nutcracker costumes on Herald Square. Around since 1924, the Macy's Parade was canceled only 3 times during World War II. Not even a snowstorm in 1989 could ground the procession. A blissfully stubborn event that in 2020 is still standing tall. And for that, we are thankful. We need this, don't we?
I think we need this now more than ever. We are New York tough, and this parade is really a display, and it's a showcase for all of New York. And I think that people are going to look at this and they're going to say, you know what, if New York City can put on this parade, we can get through a pandemic.
A couple other changes we want to point out. First is the parade route. In a normal year, it is about 2.5 miles long. Starts way up around 77th Street, marches through Manhattan, and ends around 34th Street. This year, very different. It's basically about a block around Herald Square and the Macy's flagship store. Another change is usually on Thanksgiving Eve. On Wednesday, there is sort of a balloon blow-up event. People come from all around the city to see the balloons get filled up. Obviously, this year they did still have to fill up those balloons, but there was no event. They didn't want crowds gathering to watch that. Hoda Savannah, despite all these changes, cannot tell you how excited I am to see this parade.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, nothing says excited like in the middle of a COVID season to go ahead and still have a holiday parade where you can still be a super spreader event. What do I know? Hey guys, today's date, November 28th, 2020, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host and most Will Buchanan on How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of all. Before we do get started, yes, we are trying to work on the language of this show as we're trying to be a little bit more family friendly. However, there are some things that may be shown of a graphic nature, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. I started with that just because, like I said before, we are in the midst of a COVID-19 situation. We should not be remiss that, again, you would think that 2020 has canceled a lot. Respectfully. I mean, concerts, some travel, a lot of events, because, of course, folks being at these events can spread COVID. You would think that one of the more major events in New York City at this time, the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade, would actually be canceled. No, we still had to have it. I still wonder why. I still wonder why we still had to have something that involves thousands of people at the same time. They caught themselves doing socially distanced events, which really doesn't mean shit personally, because you still had a bunch of people there that was manning the floats. You still had police there, even though it was a reduced workforce, they said. And even though the parade went down to a block, if you had to do all that planning for one major ass parade, shouldn't you just call it? I'm just saying, that's just me. I don't understand the whole point of having a Thanksgiving Day parade and literally no one can enjoy it unless you're at home. I just don't see the point. But again, like I said, I'm just surprised I still went through with it. But let's get into the news, shall we? Because the one thing the Supreme Court has done lately is the one thing I feared. I'll explain after this.
Siding with religious groups in a dispute over coronavirus restrictions in New York, limiting attendance at religious services due to the pandemic. CNN's Polo Sandoval joining us now with the breaking details. Polo, good morning.
Good morning to you, Erica. That decision coming in late last night, the Supreme Court in it basically barring the state of New York from enforcing strict attendance limits at houses of worship due to COVID. As you recall, Governor Andrew Cuomo first imposed these restrictions in early October, and since then here in New York, the Catholic Diocese of Brooklyn and also several synagogues have been launching a legal fight against the state of New York. Now, important to point out here that there won't be any immediate impact, as the churches and the synagogues that took this all the way to the Supreme Court, they're not currently actually subject to restrictions. That's because they were recently lifted due to what the state describes as an improvement in COVID stats in those parts of Queens and in Brooklyn. But as we very well know, things can change very quickly as the number of COVID infections rise. And that is really what a lot of this case has been about. The houses of worship here have argued that the restrictions violated their religious freedoms under the First Amendment. They also felt that they were unfairly facing stricter limitations than essential businesses. Chief Justice Roberts was in the dissent and noted that the religious groups could have potentially returned to court if those restrictions would have been put back in place. In his opinions, the Chief Justice writing, it may well be that such restrictions violate the free exercise clause, but it is not necessary, however, for us to rule on that serious and difficult question at this time. We should point out that this ruling also highlights the impact of newly sworn Justice Amy Coney Barrett. He sided with her conservative colleagues in this dispute. So that really is what this means for at the local level here, Allison. What's going to be interesting to see exactly what this decision will mean for potentially other religious groups across the country that are trying to fill their pews, that are potentially launching legal fights against their cities and states as well.
Absolutely. We'll find out some of that impact right now. Thank you very much, Polo. So joining us is CNN legal analyst Ellie Honig. He's a former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. So Ellie, how do you see the significance of this decision?
Well, so this is a really big deal, Allison, because it's the first time a court, certainly the Supreme Court, has come in and struck down regulations imposed aiming to limit the spread of COVID by local authorities. Essentially, what the Supreme Court says here is this is an unconstitutional infringement on the First Amendment right to free exercise. They say you cannot treat churches and synagogues different from other comparable organizations. But one of the big headlines here is the changing composition of the court has immediately yielded very different results. Just a few months ago, back in July, the Supreme Court had a very similar case that originated out of California and Nevada and ruled 5-4 upholding the restrictions. Now, the big difference, of course, is Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has passed and been replaced by Amy Coney Barrett. She has flipped, and with her has gone the entire decision of the court. Now they come out 5-4 the other way and at least temporarily say Governor Cuomo's executive order that limits the capacity of these religious organizations, that gets struck down. So that's
okay. So I am really trying. I'm just gonna go out there and say it. I am really trying to understand religious people. So the one thing that you guys should take away from this, of course, the Supreme Court, where I spoke about this on previous podcasts with Amy Coney Barrett, who is now signed in to take the place of the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg. This was exactly what I feared. That the Supreme Court would be leaning to the right, and now they're leaning exclusively to the right. And the thing about this is, this actually comes from a story that the Archdiocese in New York, because Andrew Cuomo had put in an executive stay-home order to actually limit gatherings. With that being said, and of course, people in church who are immediately screaming, "You're infringing upon my right to worship" and all this crap. So the Archdiocese then decided to put up, a case which went to the Supreme Court, which again fueled my fears because the Supreme Court is off balance, and that conservatives, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, conservatives and religious views would usually lean to the religious view. For example, you would think for something as cut and dry as this, why is it a 5-4 split? The 5 judges, being that they're all conservatives, were the ones that actually voted for it, with Amy Coney Barrett being the 5th vote. Now, what does this mean? This means that a lot of stupid people are going to wind up going back to church. I'm sorry, there's no other way to say that. I've never understood why in the world that it was so important in this day and age where COVID-19 is out there and is affecting a lot of people that you still feel the need to go to church. I just don't get it. I think that you can find different ways of doing it. I think some churches are very smart for actually closing their doors because they don't want to be examples of super spreader events. Like the tent church of not too long ago. I want to say the tent church story that I covered in Louisiana about that one creepy preacher. I'm not talking about Joel Osteen, but the other creepy preacher who was doing tent revivals in Louisiana. And how many people got sick during COVID-19 in its heyday? When we didn't have the same information about COVID-19 that we did now. That spreader event where everybody that went there got sick. And you haven't heard from that preacher since then. I'm just saying, just pointing it out there. But again, this is just like Citizens United. I think that yes, that other churches will use this case as merit and will try to sit there and say, we want to be able to worship. And the stupidest, and I'm sorry guys, not to go off track here, but hearing other religious people talking about, well, this is infringement upon our rights because you can go in Walmart and Walmart's fine. Yes, because unfortunately Walmart carries food. Walmart carries things that you'll need to live on, that you need to survive on. I mean, you go to church for religious benefit. You don't actually go there for nutritional needs. Unless you really like the communion wafers. I don't know, anybody likes communion wafers. I heard Catholics drink wine though. But again, I just don't, the whole argument, which again is just asinine and stupid. But now the Supreme Court have doubled down on it and said, oh yeah, churches, it's okay. You guys can be on the same rules as businesses. And yet they wonder why we have a lot of black areas when it comes to COVID-19 cases. Anyway, moving right along, guys. Like I said, we do have some information from Trump as Trump's in the courts. And just like usually Trump's in the courts, he's got about the same record as he would when he was trying to write bankruptcy.
Rejecting a Trump campaign legal challenge in Pennsylvania. The opinion is authored by a Trump appointee, Circuit Judge Stefanos Bibas, and it is cut and dry and unsparing. Quote, calling an election unfair does not make it so. Charges require specific allegations and then proof. We have neither here. So let's go to CNN's Jessica Schneider. She is live with this one. And so yet another loss for this president.
Yeah, this is yet another takedown wholeheartedly, Brooke, from a federal court. This, you mentioned, a Trump appointee, one of the judges on the circuit court here for the Third Circuit. This is a case that the Trump legal team has said that they will continue to take not only to the Third Circuit, which has just rejected their claim, but they have vowed to take this all the way to the Supreme Court. But so far, their track record is just abysmal. Now, to take you back, this is the case that Rudy Giuliani argued in court just about 2 weeks ago, and that shortly thereafter, the claims were completely rejected by a federal judge out of Pennsylvania. He took the Trump campaign, all of their arguments out line by line. And now the Third Circuit out of Philadelphia doing the same as to this case. You read part of this decision, but let me read another part for you because it really sums it up here. This court saying the campaign's claims have no merit. The number of ballots it specifically challenges is far smaller than the roughly 81,000 vote margin of victory, and it never claims fraud or that any votes were cast by illegal voters. And that's been the big problem here, Brooke, is that the Trump campaign, their legal team, they have repeatedly filed these lawsuits all over the country, but most specifically in Pennsylvania as one of those key battleground states. And they have continually alleged all kinds of wild allegations of fraud. But the problem is that these judges have repeatedly pointed out there's never any evidence to back up these claims. And that's what the lower court, the district court had said in this case. And now the circuit court, the federal appellate court in Pennsylvania, saying that, look, Trump campaign, you haven't backed up any of your wild speculation with any real evidence here. So the Trump campaign, yet again, getting taken down by a federal court. And really, we've been talking about it over the past week, but all of these states have been moving forward to certify. So pretty much it's all buttoned up, but the Trump campaign continues to fight. And this is yet another example of where they are not successful.
Yeah, they're pretty much coming up goose eggs. Like I said before, of course, Trump still does not want to say that it's done, even though that basically every court case that he's put in to sit there and say the votes, there's been massive fraud, okay? There's been massive fraud. We've seen it. There's evidence of it. It's everywhere. You need to give it, look, okay? If it was certified, I'd be okay with it, okay? I mean, if Biden won, Biden won. But I did. I won. I claim Georgia. Georgia's mine. It's not Biden's. That's how it should be, but it's not. When it comes to Trump and his legal team, let's just be honest. He is doing what Trump usually does. If he can't win it, he'll lawyer it down. He'll throw as much borrowed money at it as humanly possible. But the thing about it is, though, he doesn't want to admit that, dude, you lost. And that this has honestly been the most safest election in years. There has yet to be a specific instance of voter fraud or voter or tarnishment or things of that nature. There has yet to be an issue to where the voting count, which states have done audits and recertified. Again, your own cybersecurity expert, before you fired him, turned around and sat there and said that this has been the most safest election in history. And yet, Trump wants to believe, because this again, guys, you want to know the cult of stupidity. This is the cult of stupidity. That Trump tapped into hate, ignorance, and bigotry. He did. That's how he got to be president. Because everybody said, "Oh, he's not a politician, so that makes him better." At the same time, he conned a lot of people into being successful because he dressed successful, he acted successful, he looked successful, but he's never been successful. So what does that mean for the presidency? He treated the presidency like an additional show. He treated the presidency like The Apprentice, except there was not a cast, it was just him. It was almost a one-man Celebrity Apprentice show, really. So, with that being said, guys, like I said before, the fact that he went to his lawyers, Rudy Giuliani, which is still funny that, they showed him in that video where, the hair dye was streaking down. Like, bro, at that point, just stop dyeing your hair, seriously. But with that being said, guys, like I said before, the Trump administration needs to go ahead and admit it, which they did tell the transition services that they are ready to let Biden start receiving White House briefings, which need to be done, honestly. But the one thing that was actually which still made you wonder how Trump was defiant about leaving the office, well, check this out.
If the Electoral College votes for Joe Biden on December 14th, will you concede the election?
It's going to be a very hard thing to concede because we know there was massive fraud. So as to whether or not I can get this apparatus moving this quickly, because time isn't on our side, everything else is on our side, facts are on our side. This was a massive fraud. This should never take place in this country. We're like a third world country.
Just to be clear, if the Electoral College votes for Joe Biden, will you concede?
Well, if they do, they made a mistake because this election was a fraud. Just so you understand, this election was a fraud. I mean, they have Biden beating Obama on Obama's vote in areas that mattered in terms of the election, in swing states. And yet he's losing to Obama all over the place. But he's beating Obama in swing states, which are the states that mattered for purposes of the election. So, no, I can't say that at all. I think it's a possibility. They're trying to, look, between you people, don't talk to me that way. You're just a lightweight. Don't talk to me that way. I'm the president of the United States. Don't ever talk to the president that way. All right, I'm going to go with another question. Go ahead.
So if the Electoral College does elect President-elect Joe Biden, are you not going to leave this building?
Just so you, certainly I will. Certainly I will. And you know that. But I think that there will be a lot of things happening between now and the 20th of January. A lot of things. Massive fraud has been found. We're like a third world country.
You know that it's tradition for previous presidents to go to the next president's inauguration. So will you attend?
I don't want to say that yet. I mean, I know the answer. I'll be honest, I know the answer, but I just don't want to say it yet. Look, a thing like this possibly has never happened before, but maybe people just didn't catch it. But we've caught it. We've caught hundreds of thousands of votes. Listen, excuse me. When they don't allow a poll watcher, which is a sacred person in our country, people don't know what a poll watcher is. A poll watcher it's considered sacred in our country. When they throw them out of rooms,
but that's not true. They didn't do
sure
that.
it is. And when they put them in pens,
Your attorneys admitted
excuse me, no, they didn't. My attorneys did not admit anything.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, what you basically saw was, again, this is why I sit there and say, and Bill Maher actually said this first, I don't think Trump would leave. I mean, yes, he's given the signal that, Biden can start receiving White House briefings and that the transitional services of the office of the president-elect can go ahead and start moving things along. But you just heard that press conference. He still believes it's voter fraud. He still believes that somehow President Obama is still in the race. And I want to sit there and say, if I was a part of his party, sir, you understand that President Obama is no longer a president. He's not a presidential candidate anymore, right? He did 2 terms. I don't think he wants to come back for a third. Considering the unholy hell he got the first 2 terms, I don't think he wants to come back for a third. And it's amazing, like I said before, Trump has this fascination. I mean, I don't even say fascination. It's like that Mariah Carey song, Why Are You Obsessed With Me? I want President Obama to play that one time if it wasn't RIMA infringement. Just because Trump seems to be obsessed with Obama. It's almost like he wants that admiration. He wants everything that President Obama got, but he feels like he never got it, like he was slighted. And I've never understood that. Even more so, I don't understand why in the world that he is still talking about voter fraud. He is still, again, with the voter fraud. Again, he is saying all the touts, but no one's listening anymore. I kind of feel like America is like, America was on a bad trip for 4 years. And I think the high is finally coming down, and you suddenly realize you basically been riding the horse with a crazy dude. And even so much, and then when you're sober, you realize you don't need to be hanging out with them. That's what I think everybody's starting to get. Because, like I said, the cons aren't working anymore. He can't keep claiming voter fraud where it's not there. He can't keep claiming the poll watchers were blocked out when they weren't. He cannot claim that there was, and mass things of voter fraud because you have no evidence. You can't just say crazy stuff anymore because saying crazy stuff is what got you into the White House. However, as you're exiting, all of a sudden, that crazy stuff that you used to say that used to get crowds going, not as much. But again, there is one part about this that I keep on saying that we should be worried about. Just because he's about to be a leaving president, whether he likes it or not, this could still happen.
Now, there's a question on many top security officials' minds. When he leaves office, can President Trump be trusted with America's national security secrets? NBC News national security correspondent Ken Delanian joins us now with some new perspective regarding this question. Hey, Ken, good morning. So former U.S. presidents are entitled to classified briefings, but what are intelligence officials telling you about whether they think President Trump should get access to any of these national secrets once he leaves office?
Good morning, Savannah. Well, a cross-section of national security experts told me that they don't believe that Donald Trump can be trusted with America's secrets, and they don't think that he should be afforded these intelligence briefings after he departs. As you said, American presidents typically have gotten classified briefings, often when they are poised to travel overseas, or sometimes when the current president wants to consult them about a national security issue. But one of the biggest concerns being raised about Donald Trump is that he's got potential or actual business deals in adversary countries like Russia and China, which badly would like to know what's in his head and what he might learn from intelligence briefings. And there is a real fear that Trump could try to monetize these secrets. Jack Goldsmith, a top official in the Bush administration, told me that he's worried that some foreign government will put Trump on retainer, knowing that he will be indiscreet about secrets. So he said it's impossible to imagine that about any other former American president, but easy to imagine about this one, Savannah. So some real concern out there.
So we've got those business ties as a concern, but Ken, also, how does Trump's past handling of secrets play into this?
So that's the other issue, Savannah. Even if Trump wouldn't go so far as to sell secrets, he has a track record of being incredibly careless with classified information. There's that famous episode in 2017 when he disclosed highly sensitive terrorism intelligence to the Russian foreign minister in the Oval Office. But then there was the time that he tweeted what experts said was a top secret satellite photo of an Iranian nuclear installation. He told the Philippines president about the secret location of American subs. And even this past year, he revealed to journalist Bob Woodward what he called a secret, undisclosed nuclear capability that Russia and China did not know about, that the Defense Department later confirmed was real, and they were shocked that he talked about it. So even if Donald Trump wouldn't sell secrets, he has a track record of not being able to keep them, and that's why my sources say he should not be given any further access to them.
Now, Ken, we had said that former presidents are entitled to this information, but really it's a courtesy and with the permission of the current president. So how will the Biden administration handle this?
So the Biden team did not comment for this story, but you're absolutely right. There's no law that says former presidents get this information. It's entirely up to the current president. And some of my sources say that Trump may not even ask for these briefings. He's shown no patience for receiving his intelligence briefing as president. He doesn't have much love for the CIA or other intelligence agencies. So it may not be an issue. But the bottom line here is that if presidents were granted a security clearance, they're not, because they're entitled to this information. But if they were, Donald Trump couldn't pass the background check. That's what my sources are saying. So he should not be granted access to the nation's secrets going forward, Savannah.
The deck. In the words of Future, ain't no way. Ain't no fucking way. Well, I mean, that's the fear. The fear is Donald Trump, yes, because as they said before, former presidents are entitled to still White House briefings at the permission of the current president. Do I think Biden's going to allow that for Trump? Hell no. And I mean, the thing about it is, like the reporter in the article said, Trump cannot be trusted. I mean, I have said this before many times throughout the last couple of years. He is a compromised president. He owes everybody money. That's like if you have extensive. It's like, okay, I use it this way: you cannot work for a security firm that handles money if you have a history of mishandling money or show that you are a target for corruption. Most companies will shy away from people if you have a history, because I mean, if you have a history of, let's just say, bankruptcy or just mishandled loans or defaults or your credit score is terrible, most companies that involve high security or things of that nature are likely to pass on you just because you are seen statistically as a possible threat or liability. Trump is definitely a liability. There is no other way to say this. He owes everybody on the other side of the hemisphere money. I mean, think about it. The Russians, the Chinese, Saudi Arabia family, and then they come to find out he had banks in Japan, trying to open up banks in Japan. I mean, dude, you owe everybody. And I kept on saying this. That's what makes him a compromised president. It makes him a compromised president just because, you know, if Biden didn't care and he was still getting his White House briefings, do you understand the secrets I would tell? I mean, he told Putin about intel that he had gotten from the CIA. Now, why in the world would you tell a so-called quote-unquote ally extensive information that was really meant for you? Again, he is a compromised president. But then, like I said before, we really shouldn't be surprised because on his way out, he's going to start doing stuff like this.
That he has issued a full pardon for his former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Flynn was convicted after a special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation for lying to the FBI. Then the DOJ stepped in. It was really a remarkable turn of events. Jeremy Diamond, I want to bring you in because, as we know, this was expected. The president has long felt like his allies got into trouble with the FBI because of their association with him. We know there have been discussions underway in the White House to pardon Michael Flynn, and now it's happened, according to the president's tweet.
Yeah, that's right, Pam. And I think you can expect that this will just be the first of several pardons that the president is likely to issue in the final days and weeks of his presidency. But certainly this is one that has been long discussed inside the White House. The president has been considering for a long time. And now, obviously, that he knows that he will not be president in about 60 days, this is the moment for him to do this. Pardoning former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, who was only National Security Advisor for a few weeks before he was fired for lying to the Vice President of the United States about his contacts with the Russians during the transition back in 2017. Those contacts happened in 2016. And then he later pleaded guilty to the FBI in 2017 in relation to those same contacts. And somehow Michael Flynn ultimately decided to try and retract that guilty plea. The Justice Department also recently intervened and tried to dismiss this case after that guilty plea had already been filed. And now there is kind of a legal limbo, or there has been a legal limbo, about whether or not Michael Flynn would ultimately be sentenced by a judge. But now that is all out the window as President Trump announces that he has issued a full and complete pardon to Michael Flynn, who we should note has been represented most recently by Sidney Powell, that controversial attorney and conspiracy theorist who was on the president's legal team until just last weekend when Rudy Giuliani and Jenna Ellis, the president's attorneys.
Now let's think about this for a second. Michael Flynn is now the second person that Trump has pardoned. He pardoned Roger Stone earlier this year when Roger Stone was looking at a 9-year sentence in prison, and at the last hour, Trump pardoned him, and now he's pardoning Michael Flynn. Now, here's the thing that I do not understand. You were caught lying to the FBI regarding your take on the Russian interference investigation. You got caught lying, at the same time you compromised yourself, and yet Dorito bails you out. Now, what does this mean? That, yeah, he's like the reporter said, there's only less than 60 days that Trump's going to be in office. And the thing about it is he's going to do everything he can because come January 21st, he's getting evicted whether he likes it or not. The thing about it is, which again just annoys me so, is that yes, he can still go out and pardon people. Unfortunately, the bright side about this is he can't pardon himself. And trust me, that's going to be fun to watch as we get toward the end, where, like I said before, a presidential pardon can only cover federal crimes. It doesn't pardon you from president from crimes of state. This is why I say Robert Mueller was genius in actually giving the rest of his investigation over to state prosecutors, because state prosecutors can go after Trump when he's a private citizen again. And a presidential pardon will not save him. And Biden has already went on record and said he will not pardon president. He will not pardon Trump once he is president, which I think is great, because now especially the New York Attorney General, who is chomping at the bit to hit Trump with everything from everything as far as embezzle, as far as his money launderings and things of that nature. Because I always said it best: every great crime, you follow the money. And I can't wait to see the second season of Dorito when he's on trial and the presidential pardon can't save him. But again, we shouldn't be surprised he's going to pardon Flynn. He already pardoned Stone, and Roger Stone went into hiding, and Michael Flynn will probably do the same. And yet we're still going to wonder, with all this stuff going on, will anyone in this administration actually ever see justice for what they've done? Because it was a shitty administration. They just finally need to admit that. That also being said, guys, there's a few more stories I got to cover before we get to our feel good news segment. This one right here I thought was pretty interesting because I said this about corporate America and institutional racism. And, well, I want to get my thoughts on it, but let me play this video first.
Across the country, many people are taking a stand against systemic racism. Some companies say they are too. But are companies serious about change or just saving face with customers? Let's take a closer look at one business that has angered its fan base, the NFL. 59% of NFL players are black, but when it came time to take a stand in the wake of George Floyd's death, well, just listen. Much more to do as a country and as a league. Need for action, systemic issues. It makes no mention of anti-black racism or police brutality, no affirmation that Black Lives Matter, and the response was, well, just what you'd expect.
How many times do we need to ask you to listen to your players?
Of course, it's not the first time the NFL has fumbled issues of race. Colin Kaepernick began kneeling during the national anthem back in 2016, and he hasn't found a job in the NFL ever since.
You have a number of owners in the league that support Donald Trump. They wanted this story to go away. They wanted Colin Kaepernick to go away. And it was just much easier to them to sacrifice his career and his dream of maintaining a professional football career than it was to deal with ugly issues that they don't want any part of.
With police brutality once again front and center, the NFL was taking yet another passive stance on an issue affecting the majority of its players. But after taking a lot of heat, the NFL changed its tune.
We, the National Football League, admit we were wrong for not listening to NFL players earlier.
The NFL has no place in this conversation at all. The NFL has very dirty hands. You have 3 black head coaches. You have 2 black general managers. You've ruined a man's career for standing out against these issues you claimed to have always stood against.
So what's really changed, both for the NFL and the many other companies who stayed silent on issues of racism before?
And I think a lot of these brands are very motivated from a financial standpoint to show that they're engaged in black issues. If they want to continue to have any level of connection with black consumers, they're going to have to at least fake pretend that they care about these issues in order not to be considered an enemy of the community.
One thing that is different now, the power of social media. Brands want to reach customers on a more personal level, with ads that fit seamlessly into your newsfeed, just like posts your friends would share. Plus, everyone can have a voice and a platform to demand change. According to a survey in late 2018, 62% of consumers globally want to buy from companies that stand up for the same issues they are passionate about. But of course, those values aren't uniform, so companies have had to walk a fine line, taking a stand for some while not alienating others.
Right now, corporations need to actively, definitively say what side they're on. It's not that hard to do. If you stand against racism, say that. If you stand for Black Lives Mattering, say Black Lives Matter. It's not a dirty word. And if you feel like that it's going to piss off your customer base, then you got the wrong base anyway.
And now, some consumers are demanding more than just a statement and a one-time donation to a cause.
This is not just about putting out a statement or having a meeting about diversity or doing sensitivity training. Like, it's got to be an around-the-clock practice. And there's just a lot of corporations that just frankly aren't really built for that. You find that a lot of places are interested in black faces and not necessarily black voices. You can have a bunch of black people that work in your newsroom or work at your network or wherever you are in corporate America, but if none of them feel empowered to actually get you to change your culture, then it's going to stay the same.
And while the statements themselves may not do much, they can open the door to bigger change. Let's go back to Adidas, Airbnb, and L'Oreal. They were all taken to task on social media for their statements. And since then, those brands have released bigger plans and some new steps to fight racism.
I think the statements do nothing, but I do think what is happening in conjunction with the statements is that people are demanding a higher bar. So you can't write Black Lives Matter and then show us a corporate organizational chart where it's only white people, because clearly they don't in your building. The statement gives people a receipt. Once that receipt is shown, then people start asking questions and hopefully real change occurs as a result.
So with that being said, guys, like I said, corporate America, I like that story just because, number one, it takes a lot. I mean, you got to understand, corporate America didn't jump on the Black Lives Matter train until it became profitable. Yes, I said it. It became profitable. Now, I do have to give Adidas credit. They're trying to, companies are trying to do the right thing. Nike making Colin Kaepernick the face of their brand it was a statement, yes, but was it profitable? Also, because his jersey sold out immediately. I mean, you would be hard pressed to find a Colin Kaepernick black Nike jersey now just because of how quickly they sold out. At the same time, guys, like I said before, it is. I mean, corporate America does have a systemic racism issue, and especially with the fact of how their organizational structures, like Jamel Hill pointed out, how the simple fact of the matter is that you have to have a diversity training and things of that nature, and that your inclusion in workforce doesn't reflect the fact of what you stand behind. And yet, at the same time, I said before in a previous podcast, it did seem a little passé that a lot of companies were saying Black Lives Matter, but you still reflected the opposite, of course, your businesses. So, again, that was a great article. I just want to pass that along. Now, with that being said, guys, before we get to the end of this, of course, we are post our Turkey Day. Yesterday being Thanksgiving and all. I mean, day after day. Let's try it again. We are 2 days past 2 days because it's that's how you know Turkey Day has passed. When you think Turkey Day was just yesterday, but actually it was Friday and it's now Saturday. So, yeah, brothers catching up. But again, like I said, with Turkey Day passed, of course, Black Friday, for what it is still unfortunately going on, but it's actually taken quite a turn now since COVID jumped into the fray.
Slow start to Black Friday, but online, Americans are shopping and shattering records.
I could sit in front of my machine and hit 5 stores at the same time.
On Thanksgiving Day alone, online shopping soared more than 20% to a record $5.1 billion, giving Black Friday a dramatic new look, now on pace to be the biggest ever online.
Usually on Black Friday, these big TVs would be scooped up by in-person shoppers. This year, this Best Buy says a lot of these are already spoken for by online shoppers.
For the millions getting orders shipped, there's added pressure to click buy as soon as possible, thanks to backlogged orders.
Retailers' distribution centers are experiencing a significant increase in workload, coupled with some of the restrictions that COVID's in place around social distancing and use of PPE. Waiting until last minute this year is just going to result in disappointment.
That's why Amazon has hired nearly 500,000 new workers this year alone.
To compete with Amazon, Best Buy and many other retailers are transforming their stores into mini fulfillment centers. Come this way with me. They take your online order and then they fulfill it from locations in your neighborhood.
If you choose to ship, experts say December 11th is expected to be the last day for free or cheaper shipping in time for Christmas. After that, you'll pay more to get your stuff on time.
To avoid shipping risks entirely, one thing you can do is buy online and then pick up at the store. But this holiday season, you're going to want to be patient with that, too. It's a lot of people doing the same thing.
This is game.
Yeah. So again, Small Business Saturday, guys. And that was a terrible transition. So there is another thing, Small Business Saturday, where you try to avoid the big box stores and the retails, and you actually try to go to areas that are more specifically tailored to your home and things of that nature. So hopefully you guys are able to do that for Shop Local Business Saturdays. But it's true, COVID-19 has basically made us all online shoppers. So I never understood Black Friday. I never understood, going out there Black Friday, waiting till the doors open just to get the same deals that you're just going to get on New Year's. It must be an instant gratification thing. I personally do not get it. But again, like I said before, I guess for those people that just have to have a television, have to have that 55 or 60 inch television for $80. Like I said, wait till next year. It's the same deal. I promise you it is. Especially in that case if you're trying to find a PS5 or Xbox Series X, just wait till next year. Trust me, you're not going to miss anything. The game will still be there. But with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and go to our last 2 stories before we get into our Feel Good segment. I did want to talk about this story because Los Angeles County is adopting a new stay-at-home order just because of their COVID-19 cases. I mean, they are high. I mean, these areas are black areas, which means in Los Angeles, the current COVID case rate right now is over 4,500. So, of course, they're adopting new stay-at-home order just means that, they're going to be reducing people as far as going out. Public areas, which used to be good for takeout delivery, still may be the same, but they might not. But they actually will scale back on in-house dining. Again, people are being mad about this, but even so, this kind of hit a little bit home for me. Not because I live in Los Angeles County, I actually live in Nashville, and our mayor, which I have to give him credit for, is doing this.
Rule of 8 goes into effect. That means private and public gatherings cannot exceed more than 8 people.
That rule was put in place to prevent any super spreader events around the Thanksgiving holiday, but that didn't stop dozens of people from protesting against this new rule downtown at Legislative Plaza. Our Marissa Sulek actually shows us who showed up there and why they want their voices to be heard. Marissa?
Brittany, this afternoon, this plaza was filled with over 100 people voicing their opinions against the rule of 8 right before the holiday.
God bless America. Love you, brother. Thank you.
Here at the Faith and Freedom Rally, participants say they believe the rule of 8 does not apply, like retired nurse Janelle Krantz.
I'm going to be over 8. The ruling's not common sense to me.
They're unenforceable suggestions.
Pastor Greg Locke organized this vocal group last minute when he heard about the ruling.
We thought that's just not only unconstitutional, but very unmerciful to what we've already had to survive in the last number of months.
He says the timing close to the holidays will hurt families and the economy.
I get it that there's a virus, I get it there's a sickness, but you cannot give up your freedoms for security.
We are given the knowledge, and with that knowledge, we should be allowed to make our own decisions involving this.
Now, churches and houses of worship are exempt from the rule of 8. Also, civil citations will be written for those who violate the rule, similar to the mask mandate.
Yeah. How can I put this in so many ways? How can I put this in so many ways? Okay, so here in Nashville, our mayor was actually, a little bit late in doing this. I'll give him that. He actually should have instituted this a long time ago, but hey, better late than never. He instituted a rule of 8, which means that, public gatherings and private public gatherings cannot have more than 8 people. Okay, cool. It seemed like a good idea. And again, I forgot, I live in Tennessee. Why is it always people that always have, this is imposing on our faith and freedoms? How? I want to sit there the whole entire time. How? Well, that means that me and my 10 people can't get together. Do Zoom. Zoom has done wonders for people. I mean, oh dear Christ. It is literally. I sit there and say, this is, and of course, it had to be a preacher. Why? Because Nashville's religiously stupid. But it's just the whole idea, like I said before, it's a good idea. We need to, aside from having a mask mandate, we needed this. We really, really needed this. We needed to have some lockdowns. COVID cases in Nashville, skyrocketing. We are still high. We're actually considered a red site. If you go to the COVID-19 map from any tracking news source, Tennessee is still a hot site. And yet, the simple fact of the matter, yes, our Nashville mayor is putting in a rule that restricts people in groups of 8 or more. And it also says that I said, you know what? We need to go back to what we did. I hate to say this, but we need to go back to what we were doing before. We might as well go back to lockdown. We might as well go back to lockdown. We might as well go back to wearing, we need to actually enforce a mask mandate and things of that nature. Why? Because they worked. Every other place that has lower COVID cases than we do had stricter rules and shutdowns, because that's what had to happen. Other countries were shut down. China was shut down for a while. They're actually back up with less cases than us. New Zealand is virtually COVID-19 free at this point. all because other countries out there did the one things that we, for some odd reason, won't do, because there are some idiots out there that believe that their rights are being infringed. How? I mean, it's a rule of 8. You just can't be with a party of 8 or more. That's it. Anything more than 8, yes, you will get cited. Well, how's this going to be enforced in the privacy of my own home? Well, I would hope that the people that come over there be like, wait a second. Wait, no, we probably can't get together. That's common sense. You're not going to expect, I mean, I'm sorry. The whole thing about Mayor Cooper and police looking into your home talking about, I see more than 8 people. Come on now. I would think that you have the common sense not to have big gatherings at your location of 8 or more unless you are being completely careful and distancing yourselves. Again, COVID-19 is real, people. It's not that fucking hard to understand. But to simply sit there and say, oh, this is infringing upon my rights, you keep using that phrase. I don't think you know what it means. But anyway, going from there, guys, like I said before, we're going to go into our feel-good news segment. Like I said before, and how the Frack We Got Here, we do cover a lot of things, sometimes doom and gloom. And, of course, we're still recovering from our turkey comas. And for a lot of us that we're trying to get up and back and moving, we want something positive, something good for today. And I do got a couple of stories. Actually, I did find 4. Found 4 stories today that I want to share. This one right here, they all have a theme around Thanksgiving, but some of these people truly are heroes without capes.
Thanksgiving Eve, we introduced you to one American business owner who is currently struggling through the pandemic himself, and yet he's out to prove that each of us can still be a beacon of hope in these difficult times. Devin Dwyer brings us his story.
In the heart of Washington's big money lobbyist and law firm district, Qazi Manan, a first-generation Pakistani immigrant, has been serving up kebabs and curry to the rich and the poor.
These are my mom recipe that we use because we name after her and we want to honor her with her recipe, the way she used to cook.
He's been doing it for more than 7 years just blocks from the White House, quietly seating and serving thousands of homeless and hungry, just like paying customers, no questions asked.
I'm going through a problem. I said, I love you, my friend. Don't worry about it. Just have a seat, enjoy.
How did you make any money?
Idea to feed from the restaurant doesn't exist because people are scared letting poor people come in, it will ruin your business. But it's opposite for me.
When COVID-19 hit, the economic crisis nearly made Qazi go hungry too. As business plunged at Sakina Halal Grill, he laid off staff, cut free meals, and contemplated closing for good.
Hello.
Oh, hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
But a global community this month rallied to the rescue, inspired by his story first shared widely on ABC affiliate WJLA.
I can't let go of the restaurant. I'm fighting every day.
More than 6,500 donors chipping in more than $250,000 in just 1 week, an outpouring that has humbled and empowered Qazi to keep going.
You said this is a symbol of love. This is a symbol of love. And people didn't want this symbol of love to go away in ashes. Because the restaurant is gone, my story ends.
His story began with a simple lesson from his mother.
She will always prepare some meal, and she will always prepare extra to give it to the neighbor. Go give it to this person, go give it to this person. And I will be just like, why mom is giving? I didn't understand because as a child, you don't understand of giving. But she knew the giving brings joy to her. And that's what I feel it every single day.
Outreach to complete strangers that Qazi says opened his eyes to the homeless Americans he often passed by blindly on the street. More than 6,300 in the nation's capital are homeless this year, among more than 500,000 homeless nationwide.
You know, the people have mental issue, health issue. We were patient with them and they were patient with us. So it was a relationship even with the homeless community. You want us to go or for here? No, it's for here. Please have a seat and we'll make it ready for you. Okay.
As business starts to slowly bounce back, Qazi is celebrating the return of more customers, especially the ones who need help the most. A circle of generosity propelled by faith in kindness.
Pure heart, doing kind thing will always touch other people's heart.
As so many this pandemic Thanksgiving show gratitude for what they have by giving. For ABC.
And I just thought that was cool. The simple fact of the matter is the act of giving, which is really what it's all about. I mean, the guy just wanted to help people, and you can't be mad at those with pure intentions that just want to just feed people. It's like the best I could. I was like, I can help you. The best if I can feed you, cool, no questions asked, and you come in there. So I just thought it was cool too. What's also cool is this couple. Now, I don't know how in the world this was convincing anything else. But this couple was getting married, well, was planning to get married, and decided to cancel their wedding and give Thanksgiving dinners to the needy. So they got married at City Hall and decided to take their deposit and actually go find a location to where they took the rest of their money from the wedding and actually prepared thousands upon thousands, hundreds upon thousands of Thanksgiving dinners, which I'm sorry, that does look pretty freaking good actually, in which they turned around and actually gave to the homeless. And of course, that's the couple right there. And I'm going to be honest with you, the fact that, they took it upon themselves to turn around and cancel their wedding. Let's be honest here for a second, y'all. It had to be her idea. I think reality-wise, it had to be her idea. You want to know why I know it had to be her idea? Could you imagine your fiance come to you and say, honey, let's cancel this wedding and feed the homeless? I don't think y'all ever heard the term bridezilla before, but she would have came out and been like, we got to do what? Oh, no, I done found this dress. I done found the hairstylist I wanted. I done found the venue. I done found the day. And you telling me that we got to stop and we got to feed the homeless now? Yeah. Yeah, that wouldn't have may not occurred. But that's why I think it's more of her idea, but I'm just being funny. I'm just trying to be funny about it. But I just like the fact, like I said before, people actually, giving up what they did to actually, to really just help people. And I think that's pretty cool. Even more so, where this group of entrepreneurs, let me actually get to the story so you guys can see it. So this group of local entrepreneurs went to a store in Atlanta and paid over $48,000 in groceries for people. I don't know why she felt the need to hold up the receipt. Okay, maybe she just wanted to prove something. But these black entrepreneurs in Atlanta went to a certain store and literally sat at the register paying for everybody's meals. Now, you've seen this before. You've seen Drake and them all do it. But like I said before, I think it's cool. I think it's great that entrepreneurs or anybody in their own way is trying to help out others. And $48,000 worth of groceries, I know some people cleaned up. Some people actually were able to, get the things they needed, still have Thanksgiving, things of that nature. And I love how he said there. I love how one of the benefactors sat there and says, "Black entrepreneurs, we got to give back to our communities." And that's the way to serve a community. I said it best, the way that we actually rebuild ourselves is that we have to rebuild our village. We have to rebuild our sense of community and things of that nature. And I thought that was pretty cool, like I said before, that our entrepreneurs can get together and spend $48,000 and help people out. Now, I'll be honest, now, if I ever became rich and won the lottery, I would do some secret Batman stuff. I would actually put on a Batman suit and actually, I think I have to do something about my hair because that's going to be a dead giveaway. I'm playing Batman, or I'll just find a different suit and, do stuff like that. That would actually make me feel good. Actually go to a place where nobody knows me and just help out the people and then just disappear. And then it'd just be like a legend. He wore Batman, but he wasn't Batman? No, but he was the hero we needed. Not the one he's the hero we didn't deserve, but the one we needed right now. I didn't script the line. But anyway, the last story I got, guys, like I said before, I love stories like this. Arkansas woman turns 106 after beating COVID-19, which is Miss Boyle right there. Miss Boyle is actually turned 106 actually tomorrow, and again, it is amazing. 106 years old, and this woman has beaten COVID-19. Her genes should be studied, because I always say it best, when people that live that long, over 100, 106. And of course, her family did have a socially distant party, and people drove up and did drive-bys and all that good stuff. But let's be honest here, guys. 106 years old and still with us. I think what was it, Willard Scott? They used to do the 100 plus on NBC Today. He always used to do the 100 plus people, 100, I forget what it's called, the 100 Club or something like that. I thought that was cool, personally. Just for simple fact of the matter, like I said before, you got to celebrate, and anybody beating COVID-19 is celebration. Let's just call that what it is. Anyone that survives COVID-19 is a celebration. So we definitely want to sit there and say, happy early birthday to her. 106, I'd, hope to be 106 or something of that nature. That would be pretty cool. But that's all that we got, guys. I do thank you all for watching. Before I do get out of here, I do have some shameless promotions to do, and I say shameless because I'm definitely shameless in promoting. I'll start with my buddy who's still watching us right now, Vaughn. Vaughn actually has a page of his own. Big BZA is the Facebook page. If you're already friends with him, like I am, cool. If not, you should be friends. He's friendly-ish. But once you are friends with him, definitely go to his videos and then just go to his A's videos to see all of his podcasts. I'll start with the first one called the BST or Intracast. What is the BST? You see, Vaughn, like myself, is a big-ass kid. Why are we big-ass kids? Just because we are grown men. We pay bills, we handle responsibilities, things of that nature. But we also like to basically... we basically like to, get back to our roots. Video games, stuff of that nature, and certain television shows. And that's what the BST is all about. Vaughn does cover video games. He does cover music. He does cover movie trailers. And I call him the king of weird trailers because he always finds the weirdest stuff. And usually he has a rant. He usually has rants. Like I said, I like when he does actually goes into rants. But again... it's an interactive show just like mine. As you can see on this one, I did actually comment on that. But he does cover everything on BSTs as far as just, give you a variety of things that you should be well informed of, and that's what he does there. He also has another show called Random as Fuck. What is Random as Fuck? It is the pool of ranches we sometimes dip our toes into to take a break from life and have a chuckle. Some bills make you think and some bills make you cry. And this is still personally my favorite just because, number one, he has a theme Fuck Donald Trump, which has actually been replaced on iTunes now. And at the same time with this show, what is Random as Fuck? Like I said before, it's always videos to a theme. In this case, they were basically doing Donald Trump themes, in which, yes, that is very true. Trump supporters did sit outside the election office and praying for them to stop counting the votes. Yes, that actually happened. And with that being said, he also covered Kenneth Copeland, which again, that man's laugh is just, well... That's just creepy. Anybody that laughs like that, like they're trying to, walk off a hernia, that is, I never thought I'd see an evil villain come to life, and yet there he is. But anyway, but like I said, with Vaughn, he does cover stuff like this. Again, to reset your week, reset your weeks on Tuesdays. And of course, he also has another show called Rhythm This, where you can reminisce over the rhythm, in which we go over albums of the past and the present. Sometimes, and also new stuff, because like I said, with new stuff Vaughn likes to do. And it usually is me and others and himself. And we are not musical critics, but we just like to, say what we like and what we don't like. And difference in taste lead to great conversation. That's what the Rhythm This Music Podcast is all about. And finally, he has another one I like to call his Pop-Up Fonkin' Around podcast. What is his Fonkin' Around podcast? It's basically him doing what he does best. He makes beats. And he's actually pretty good at it. And again, he has these shows off his creative lab here. Vaughn is a person that is I call him a musical genius, really. He's like Kanye without the crazy issues. But like I said before, I always said before, that's what he does Fonkin' Around. He basically shows how he came up with beats from beginning to end to show the creative process, which actually shows a little bit of himself there, which I thought was pretty cool. So, of course, with Fonkin' Around, that is sporadically, but you can definitely check him out on his Facebook to see when he posts. So all of his shows can be found on his Facebook page. Like I said, go to Big BZA on Facebook and definitely like, share, and subscribe. And like I said, tell him I sent you that you want to be friends because he's friendly-ish. Aside from that, guys, I do have a few podcasts of my own. I will start with this one because, as you can see, the link at the bottom right here is the actual link for the YouTube, for the podcast How the Frack We Got Here on YouTube. So, unfortunately, it's not a clickable link. You'll need to copy and paste it in a browser, and it will definitely take you to the YouTube page to see every How the Frack We Got Here podcast thus far. Aside from that, guys, I do have, like I said, starting with my usual shows. On Tuesdays between 7 and 9 p.m. is the Burned Out Podcast. It is my IT storytelling podcast in which I go into stories from my IT background that I find interesting and funny. And if you find it funny, then mission accomplished. If you don't find it funny, then lighten up, because I'm probably talking about you. But always meant to be entertaining as I try to give my side of the world, dealing with the human condition sometimes. Of course, every Saturday, as you can see, from 10 a.m. to noon is the How the Frack We Got Here podcast, the podcast you're watching right now. A little bit later tonight, between 8 to 10 p.m., will be the Off Limits podcast. It's a podcast that definitely does go there, as I just repeated on How the Frack We Got Here a second time. I apologize. Turkey Day. But what is Off Limits? Like I said before, as the name implies, we go anywhere and everywhere. And tonight is no exception, because I'm going to talk about religious people. That's going to be fun. But again, like I said before, it is an adults-only podcast, because we do use a lot of adult language there, and it's definitely not meant for kids, and it's also not meant for the faint of heart. So if you can come through here, as Mom would say, with your mind open, with your mind and your ears open, then doggone it, you can learn something. Of course, every Sunday between 7 and 9 p.m. is the Get Bit podcast, as my Blurred podcast, in which I cover everything video games, comic books, sci-fi, cosplay, anime, superhero television movies, things of that nature. Simply put, because we're trying to make one to where it's blurs that are made for us and by us and for others to enjoy. Really not a lot here, because like I said before, still playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's definitely living up to its name. But again, not really much in the way of this, much of this week. I cannot wait for next week, because we are so close to Cyberpunk 2077 that I can taste it. But aside from that, guys, all of our shows do have YouTube pages and Facebook pages. So if you're ever on YouTube or Facebook, you can definitely look them up by their names. You can look them up by typing in The Burned Out Podcast, How the Frack We Got Here, The Off Limits Podcast, and Get Bit, that is GITBIT, to be able to see every podcast that I've done this far. Of course, you can definitely look me up, William Buchanan, on Facebook, just to like and, add me as a friend if you want to see the videos that way. Now, with that being said, guys, like I said before, COVID-19 is real. You have not seen by now in the stories that I've posted, it is real and it's not going away. Please wear a mask. Please do social distancing. Only go out if you need to. At the same time, if you are sick, please, if you're severely sick, please seek medical attention. If you are slightly sick, it is time to quarantine yourself. This is not the time to bring everybody over and have a shindig. That's how spreader events work. Now, aside from that, if you see a nurses or doctor's aide, nurse's aide, those who work in environmental services in the hospital, just say thank you. I mean, they don't really get enough praise and admiration as they do, but just the public just saying thank you for what you're doing and really appreciating your service right now, because they're putting themselves in the harm's way to treat COVID-19 patients at the risk of getting sick themselves or bringing it home to their families. Aside from that, we need to thank also essential workers. I'm talking, just in the way of almost similar to educators, they also need to be thanked. I'm talking about those that work in gas stations, grocery store attendants, truck start drivers, those that work in warehouses like Amazon, or those that work in logistics like United States Postal Service, UPS, FedEx, or DHL. All those guys right now, because, for a lot of us, we may have gotten the choice to work from home, and that's great, but for a lot of people, their job may not allow them to work from home, and they really had to go in and risk COVID-19 situations in order to keep the lights on for the rest of us, and that should be appreciated. Aside from that, like I said before, shop local business Saturdays. So again, if you have a local business there that you can patron and go to, do that. The corporate box retail places will be fine. It's the local businesses that right now need the best, that needs the help. The same thing that Republicans keep on saying, that they support small business, but they really don't. But aside from that, guys, like I said about How the Frack We Got Here, before to wrap this up, it's all about staying informed. We're not trying to change your mind. We're not trying to influence you. We're not trying to lead you down an agenda path or anything of that nature. We are simply presenting the facts to you as you see them and allowing you to make up your own mind. Because an informed community, we can make a lot better decisions than an uninformed one, because an uninformed one got us Trump, but an informed one is kicking him out. And that's how the Frack We Got Here. I do thank you all for watching, and like I said, if you're watching us live, I do thank you for the comments that you did. And if you're watching this on the playback, please comment as if it's live. I still want to know your opinions. But I'm out, guys. Hopefully you have a happy Saturday, and try to recover from your turkey coma. Peace.